time to put down your rods and pick up your headphones. Join JC and Andy from Ebb Tide Tackle for The Outflow, the podcast talking all things lure fishing with hardcore fishers from all over the world.
Hi everyone, on this episode, JC has sat down with Cam McGregor from River Escapes. Cam is one of Australia's leading freshwater fly fishing guides. He has a deep-seated passion for Murray cod on fly, trout on fly, also a little bit of lure fishing, but Cam's your man if fly fishing's your groove. The boys sat down at Lake Mulwala on location after a big day on the water. Also joined on this episode by Nate Sow from 808 Hawaii, who you would have heard on previous episodes. The morning following this recording, JC actually scored himself a 102 on topwater. It ended an epic few days that the guys had spent together. Let's get straight into it and join Cam as he is explaining to JC how his business come about.
We're pretty proud of it too because we built it. Like, I know you guys have built something pretty special with Ebb Tide as well, and it has been a work in progress. Yeah, there was a full-time job backing us there for a bit, but then we've gone in hard for sure.
You have the safety net.
We had it there for a bit, but yeah, you still, I'll say it, shit yourself there for a bit, but no,
absolutely.
We've made it work, and I say, full-time guy. I still do a bit of research work as well. I've never completely left that space, but it's almost do it for the love of it too, sort of thing. Still,
nice to have your hand in, I think.
Yeah.
In that way, there, like it probably keeps a bit of relevance and anchors that passion.
100%.
It's not just about taking people fishing in the most simple sense.
Not. And we get great pleasure in you can teach anyone to fish, but if they get off the boat or if they take the waders off at the end of the day, they're always going to learn something with us too. Like we make sure that their horizons have been broadened, I guess.
Whether they catch a fish or not.
Yeah.
So I think you said yesterday, or might have been today, 60% of your operations fly, and about 40% conventional casting. Is that
for the cod stuff?
For the cod stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
For trout, it's obviously a very high.
Yeah.
Or is it 100%?
100%.
fly?
Yeah, we're just fly snobs with the trout stuff.
Yeah.
Do a lot of beginner work though.
Yeah, so tell us about some of that stuff that you do with the colleges and school groups.
Yeah, so we've had, we're just straight up, like any guiding operation, I don't think it really matters, like from a trout fly fishing point of view, I don't think it matters where you are in the world, but a lot of the work you're going to do is with beginners.
Right.
That's just the nature of it. That being said though, that I think fly clients appreciate good level guiding as well, and that it's something we've all, like, probably, I will swing back around to what you asked me properly, but probably with the cod stuff, I offered it off the bat straight away as soon as we started River Escapes because I was confident I was getting good results catching cod, and was getting a lot more consistent with it. It took a long time to do that, but definitely getting consistent results now, nutting them out more and more. But yeah, it's not just straight run-of-the-mill guiding that we do either. It's like every year we have a fantastic group comes over from Gippsland Grammar, so year 9 kids. Like we were talking about it the other day, like it's the school we all wish we went to.
Yeah, I seriously wish I went to that school growing up.
This is a school that has a fishing program, or?
Yeah, it has so a crazy outdoor ed, like scuba diving, surfing camps, hiking, mountain bike ridings, but one of the camp opportunities is fly fishing. So we get them on the first day, get them casting in the afternoon. By the end of it, they've fished rivers, they've fished a lake with us out of the raft, they've learned how to tie flies, they've caught bugs in the river, which, we can geek out and talk scientific names about bugs if we want to. Even this year, we managed to get a couple of little river blackfish, like 2-spine blackfish.
That's cool.
Yeah, just by accident.
So that's a whole immersive experience around the ecology of the river, fly fishing from its fundamentals through to tying. It's not just like, let's go try and catch a fish on a fly rod, is it?
Yeah.
It's the full thing.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like the best school program that's ever been a school program.
Yeah, I didn't do anything like that in Shepparton. I can promise you. Awesome. So, River Escapes, you offer both trout and cod. Where's your passion lie?
cod.
As your passion, yeah.
It always has been my passion, though. It's the trout stuff come along when I was a kid. I think fly fishing initially came on it, or it did. It come on a trip up to Yucumeen with a late great uncle, and I think I just more fell in love with the whole fly side of things. And then growing up in Corowa, like even then it was like either up to my grandparents' old farm near where we live now, or get mum or dad to go up somewhere like the Midder or somewhere, and like an hour and a half in camp or whatever, and then cod were always there. As hard as they can be to catch now, they were definitely harder to catch then, just purely,
for sure.
Purely based on what population we had left in the rivers. So.
Yeah, there's anyone who's been fishing for cod long enough in Victoria and New South Wales knows that it's better now than it has been in a long time.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And yeah, I thought, oh, well, I've caught them every way possible, literally every way possible. And it was time to try and crack one on a fly rod.
Yeah, so tell us about your first cod on a fly rod.
It was down here, yeah,
At
Mulwala, yeah. What was I, 15?
Oh, so going back a long way.
Yeah.
You've caught them on fly for a long time.
Yeah. And it was an old... I used to get, like, with a lot of help from my parents, especially Dad, I used to bag up sheep manure and supply a nursery, and also like Select Gardens in Corowa. So
Select Gardens.
Select Gardens, the best gardens in Corowa. So we'd bag up all the sheep shit into feed bags and go around and sell it. So I always had pretty good fishing gear as a kid.
Yeah.
Looking back, I had this awesome little business, but I didn't save any money. It all went to fishing gear.
Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, and it was, the first dedicated cod rod I bought was this old piece of crap. Looking back now, Daewoo Boron 8-weight. It was meant to be graphite, but it behaved very much like a wet noodle of fiberglass.
Yeah.
But, so I set that up, and I was already sort of down here a fair bit anyway. We had friends' property upstream of Mulwala, and it was about upstream of Bundalong. It was about a 20-minute run down, and we were sort of in the guts of Lake Mulwala, and no electric motors, just bumping off stumps. And
yeah, that's cool. How big was your first one on fly?
I think they were like 50 something centimeters.
A standard mull fish,
yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
Were you the first guy to get it caught on fly?
No, definitely not. No, I had inspiration from guys like Rod Harrison, Wayne Campy. I think like names I remember, like authors. Like there was a few initial articles in magazines and things. And
Harrow was the one for me when I was growing up. I wasn't fascinated by fly. I did fly fishing for probably 3 years with my dad in my middle teenage years. That was all trout, but I always remember Harrow in the modern all fishing world, whichever it was, and always Harrow with the sleeves torn off his shirts, fly rod, Papuan black bass, cod or barra, wasn't it?
I remember his little blurb article that he used to do. I think it was in the back of the magazine, and the animated version of him. Yeah, that was exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. He's a pretty. Have you met Harrow?
Yeah, well, we had him. Remember, we had him up a couple of years ago.
Oh, sorry, of course. Yeah. When I first met you, Harrow was there. Of course,
I'd met him before that, but yeah, it was good to sit down and talk crap with him.
I enjoy his company. He's actually a wise man.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. He's definitely a wise man.
Very forthright. Will tell you without worrying about who he offends.
Yeah.
His opinion on things. Hey.
Yeah. No, which I respect a lot in this day and age, to be honest.
For sure. So River Escapes, what do you pride yourself in as a primary fly guiding business? What's your thing?
Me, just like we've got a fantastic trout fishery. We've got a really good Murray cod fishery, and I think it's almost an honour when someone gets their first cod on fly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's a 40 centimetre river fish or they've jagged a good one straight up. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I actually can't wait till I commit to it myself properly and manage to do it. I've had a little go here and there, and I've pricked one.
Yeah,
it's about all I've done. buggers to put a hook in and keep it in, aren't they? Like you experienced that yesterday, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to jam hooks in these cod and fly like I was setting on GTs, and they just kept popping off.
Yeah.
And then when you got that one, I remember just going, yeah, you got it now, you got it.
Yeah, you hit him about 4 times.
Maybe 14 times is how many times I hit it.
He's about 4 centimetres longer than he was to start with.
Yeah, stretched him out a bit.
Yeah, but that's the biggest thing with it. Like keeping people motivated throughout the course of the day, and it doesn't matter. Like I say it a lot. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what rod you've got in your hand or what method. If they're not in the mood, they're not in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do finally get that hit, and the dread, that's where we get a lot from saltwater fishing. And someone like Nate's great because they're used to hitting fish all the time with what we call a strip strike, and yeah, you nearly
Not lifting up like
not lifting
trout
up
fishing.
what we call a trout strike.
Yeah.
And it's a bugger when your client turns around in the boat and they're like, oh, what happened? And you're like, yeah, that rod, and they might still be looking at you and the rod's up in the air and you're like, yeah, that's what happened there. And it can be hard to take when you've been at it all day.
That's their one shot.
Yeah, and
We've all done it in one way or another where we've lapsed in concentration or, didn't have the foundation there and missed a bite. It happens too often.
it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's when you get the bite, is when concentration is blown.
Well,
Like this afternoon, when you and I were just talking absolute trash, and we had a bite.
We were chatting in the late evening, like the sun's gone, it was like prime time, and he was talking about, Susan Boyles. And then, like, literally the words come out of his mouth, and then you're like, crap! Big boil behind his, like, popper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. So, tough day today on Mull. Though, when you look at it, yeah, there was no crazy bite on, but I think I had at least 2 bites. You raised a few fish. 2? Late.
And maybe raised 2, and maybe I had another good bump earlier in the day.
Yeah, you had a bump when you were subsurface. Katie had a decent boil.
Yeah, I had one half-hearted bump, which I think was just that territorial sort of hit we often talk about.
Yeah.
That was down the main lake, and then had another pluck this afternoon, and then same sort of thing though. Didn't really expect to connect with it. But yeah, Katie got nailed pretty hard, and yeah, somehow she did everything right. Just didn't
Pin it.
didn't connect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't connect.
Yeah, it's crazy how they can fall off. But so out of what's a pretty tough day fishing, get a couple of those to connect, it could have been okay. But Mulwala's notorious for this, isn't it? It's tomorrow can light up, bite windows can be left, right, and centre, but it can be a really tough fishery.
Yeah.
What's your experience going back in this lake? Like you caught your first fish on here in fly when you were 15. How far back do you go with this lake, and how much have you fished it?
Can remember some of my earliest camping memories, because growing up in Corowa,
Right.
15 minutes up the road. So a lot of our time.
Basically your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Dad, like my old man was still is a very passionate cod fisherman, and
The cheese champion.
the cheese king, yeah. We'll have to get him to listen to this just so he hears that again. That'll stir him up a bit.
We've heard a lot about that.
Yeah.
By the way.
He is predominantly a bait man. But yeah, learnt so much. Like at the end of the day, you got to start fishing for them. Any fish, I think, with like bait fishing, you learn about fish behaviour.
You do, absolutely.
And like, I sit back thinking we'd sit there and you'd watch a fish play on a bait for half hour, and even then they mightn't commit to it properly. So, and now we're trying to nail them with lures and flies. So we're trying to get that initial reaction which hooks them straight away. But yeah, look, I couldn't pin it. All I know is I was a kid in nappies at some point, like somewhere like Kiffin's or Drain Lane.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You've basically spent your whole life in one format or another around
this area. Around this yeah. Did heaps on the river upstream of Corowa. That was where the old man still is. So
Yeah.
But yes, definitely spend a lot of time down here.
So with your fisheries background and your knowledge of this, like, I think it's worth having a quick chat about the self-sustained nature of this fishery, and it's not stocked.
No.
In a day and age where stocking kind of rules
Yeah.
Murray cod population, so
Yeah.
it's a self-sustaining place, yeah.
It is, and it's the way I like to say it is it's an accidental shining light, I guess. It's one of the few, if not the only, man-made environment where the fish have really flourished, and it's because there was a red gum forest flooded. We already had the main river channel and all its ana branches and things here, which is why it was built where it was. So the fish were already there, and then yeah, we know cod love structure, and there's no shortage of it, obviously, with Mulwala. So we had these fish. Yeah, we I like to think of it as almost like a giant wetland with flow. So the food supply, it probably doesn't have the growth rates that it used to have. That's a bit of a long draw by me, but I actually think you can kind of look at the fish now compared to, like, there's more fish in here than when I was a kid, for sure, but I'd say the fish were on average a lot fatter.
Yeah.
And it was the same food supply, but I'd say just over time that the population of fish has grown.
There's a lot of fish competing for the food here, isn't
competing
there?
for the food now. Yeah, 100%.
Whereas if you go to, I guess, what's an emerging fishery, Eildon, yeah, there's a lot of fish in there too, but there is so much freaking bait.
Yeah. And
I don't get the same feeling out here.
different food supplies too. Like, there's a lot of the fish here definitely keen on smaller stuff as well. A lot, like stuff like native gudgeons, like western carp gudgeons. There's a lot of goldfish out here. The fish key in on them as well.
A lot of goldfish in there, is there?
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
From released aquariums.
Oh, but goldfish have been here longer than carp, so
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, they haven't been gold for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shrimp. Like, anyone who's launched a boat here on a warm night will stand in the water, and next thing
They're getting big.
they pay big money for that in certain countries, but you can just launch a boat here and get
your feet clean.
Get your feet clean. So
yeah, crazy. You said something interesting the other day about the rate that they were clearing the lands here for timber for is it for firewood or
anything, I think, like it's a lot of sleeper cutting, stuff like that. Firewood, it could have been like red gum was obviously used for so much.
True. And that was when the lake was declared that it was going to be flooded.
Yeah,
they were building the wall, and it was like, fill your boots, boys. Yeah, cut down as much as you want.
Yeah, so that, and you can see it. It's really evident that they started at the town end, worked their way up, and then got to a point where the construction, they couldn't cut timber quick enough, so they managed to get that town end cleared, and then after that they got quite selective. So when you're up in the I guess the top half of the lake, a lot of the time you'll be floating along, and the kind of logs that you used to get stuck on at the top of as a kid, and would mean that you had quite a late night. But
you're there for a while.
Yeah, and we all had V-hull boats too. They used to plant perfectly on top of those tree stumps that were about a foot under the water.
100%.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's just a dead giveaway. They just got really selective, and you can see it too. Like, some of those cut-off ones were monstrous trees.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Big trees.
Yeah. So yeah, they just had to get selective with it, but it was good for fishermen and cod definitely in the end, because we just structure everywhere.
So I guess ebb tide and the outflow is a lot more Murray cod orientated than trout. Got nothing against trout, but it's just what we do. What's your best cod memory out here?
Probably finally got that meter fish out of here a few years ago on fly.
Yeah, that's a cool achievement, man.
Yeah, and it was with
Kyle, wasn't it?
Yeah, with Kyle. But no, it was good, and to do it with him as well. Like, we've since kids we've been fishing together, so still best mates. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. How big was it?
105.
105.
Yeah.
And from memory, it was from a mull perspective, it was actually a pretty good looking fish.
It was, yeah. It was in good nick, yeah.
That comment you made before about the food source and the condition of these fish, we do often see Mulwala fish that don't look that great.
Yeah.
I don't think they're unhealthy, but that they perhaps in condition don't compare to some of
Oh,
the more food-rich environments.
Yeah.
But some still look great.
Yeah, I think. I feel you almost get two types of fish in here. You get the fish that are up in the shallower areas that aren't necessarily working as hard for their food, and then they definitely seem a thicker set fish. Then you get the fish that are probably more attuned with the river channel, or we know how important anyone that's spent time out here, if you can fish an area with current flow, and often they'd often hold more fish too, but you often see a leaner fish there, almost like a fitter fish, I guess.
Yeah. You often get that that feeling that fish in flow are actually fitter.
Yeah.
Especially with cod, they're a leaner model.
Definitely.
A lot of the time, and that they quite often put up a better fight too.
Yeah.
Best guiding experience. Best thing you've happened to you as a guide. What you've done with a client.
Best I'll give you the scariest one first. And I used to joke about, like I used to say to people, do you have any like pre-existing heart conditions before I take them fishing surface for cod? And I had an older fella in the boat that was back up in the hills, and in this little rowboat that we used to, it was almost, what was it? Sort of like almost little duck. It's not like a little duck hunting boat. We actually got it ticked off in survey, which was pretty cool. We don't own it anymore, but so you had this old guy in the front of the little boat we were running at the time, and I tied a surface lure on. We sort of had about an hour and a half of daylight. He'd already had a pretty good day, and he just proceeded to be like, "Oh, these surface lures are a gimmick, rah rah rah," and I'm like, "Oh,
They don't work."
Yeah, and I'm like, just give it a few goes, mate. Like fifth cast, like a decent fish for this bit of water is just blown up right in front of the boat, like covered him on the water, and I was like, how cool was that? Rah, rah. And he didn't move, and I'm like, oh no, what's going on? And he eventually turned around in the swivel chair, and he was white as a ghost. And he seriously looked like he'd done a ticker valve.
Was this in the drift boat?
Yeah, the little one we used to have.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, are you alright? You alright? And it took a while to get his composure. He's like, oh my god, that was the baddest thing I've ever seen. Well, get your lure back in. We didn't connect with the fish again, but yeah, he got some more that afternoon. But just had that sheer look of terror on his face there momentarily.
Yeah, and that's fantastic.
It is, yeah. And it's not always I think like best guiding moments. Like it's not always the biggest.
No,
the
it's
biggest
not.
Fish.
It's
not. And I think probably some of the coolest stuff, like young kids, like their parents or even have come out with them, and we've managed to connect with fish, and like the young little fella was telling me about the other day, like making jokes like you got to risk it to get the biscuit, and like these kids couldn't cast, so we're just trolling and stuff in the lake, and yeah, sure enough, first pass past this tree stump, and rod loads up. Those little straps on the back of those little life jackets are great. Like managed to hold on to the kid as he tried to leave the boat, but and then the kid, unprompted, just fishes in the net, and he's like, biscuit to get the biscuit.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. And yeah, that sort of stuff's always cool. It's just first for people, I think.
Yeah, for sure. A first of any species, or a first fish on fly, like that's all cool stuff.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and just like obviously we're doing just about as much like on the lure side of things as well, and people see the value in good guiding too, I guess, and yeah, just putting people on the cod.
Yeah,
is great.
If I could add to that, as essentially being kind of a client here with JC and Cam, I've been on a lot of guided fishing trips in the past and fished with a lot of guides, and what these guys offer is something else, because not only does Cam have the childhood background of fishing for these fish, but they also offer the client, whoever that may be, a real scientific perspective on the fishery as a whole. Between Katie and himself, that is really something that you don't see too often in guided fishing, and I would really implore anybody who fishes with these guys to get into that aspect of that with them, because it's something that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah, without disparaging anyone, probably most guides can just fish good and have experience, and there's obviously varying degrees of knowledge, perhaps more than that. But you and Katie have got some really hardcore sound knowledge. Like Katie's amazing.
She's a PhD fisheries biologist, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
That's
yeah.
and to be able to have a chat with that, along with the whole fishing aspect of things, you don't get that many places. That's
I love it when
very unique.
When she disagrees with your theories.
Yeah, oh, it's good. Yeah.
And you don't argue either. You're like,
No,
okay.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that's how we met. So she come down to do a PhD when I was still at Snobs Creek. Last place I ever thought I'd find. Yeah.
And she's done a lot of Murray cod work, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, half a PhD essentially was on cod, dietary stuff, looking at. Look back to that last, like it's a bad drought now, but we're pretty lucky down this end of the system, really.
Yeah.
But 2007 was that real bad one everywhere, including here. Like you look back at some of the storage levels that we had, like.
What, Eildon got to 10 or below 10?
I was 7 or something crazy.
Yeah.
And Hume was real bad. Like I think Hume got down to like 6 or something. First year the Murray below Hume's been warm. Like you could feel it was warm. Just because it's normally a cold water release. But yeah, so Katie come down because I'd inadvertently found the only breeding population of carp anywhere in the basin, and she was in Queensland. She needed juvenile carp for her aquarium-based studies on cod and goldens, so looking at dietary stuff. So basically the crux of her PhD was, and we all have this belief, and a lot of people do now as well, that we can just continue to stock huge numbers of natives to control carp. But what was happening, and we didn't realise it, and I had the same belief. I was out there electric fishing every second, third day, and it's like, yeah, geez, we're getting heaps more natives, right? But not really putting the two and two together. It wasn't what we'd got so good at breeding native fish, but at the same time, carp numbers were low because they just hadn't had water to spawn.
Mm-hmm.
And
in that drought.
Yeah, and we've created an ideal environment for them in regulated rivers, and so as soon as the drought did break, that was when you saw how capable carp were coming back, and it didn't matter that background population of natives was there. So
they eat them, but they can't eat them all.
Yeah, well, and it's more. Katie's work showed that it's as much. So big fish are eating carp, but it's basically filling a void because we've decimated our small native fish communities.
Right.
Whereas, like all these stories of cod eating carp are true, but like it's a bit like put a jelly bean in front of us, we're going to eat it.
Yeah.
Like the days of poaching, you used to stick a hook in a small carp's back.
Correct.
Of course, it's going to get eaten by a cod when you put it in front of it, but
because it can't get away.
Yeah, and they just basically live in different areas of the river too. So and when, which I learned through Katie's stuff, when like they're getting spawned up in the wetlands. Like I knew that from a lot of my previous work, which is on carp as well. But when the small fish leave those wetland or lagoon environments and they get forced into the main river channel, they do it in mass, and it's something called like prey swamping. It's like the whole fish school
leaves
syndrome in salt, like we see in saltwater. So basically, her tank study shown that as soon as she increased numbers of small carp in front of cod, it was almost like the cod freaked out and didn't quite know how to handle it.
Really?
Yeah, it was really interesting stuff. Yeah.
Wouldn't have thought that.
No, you'd think they
thought it would have been smashing the hell out of him.
Yeah, but they'd even I might be misquoting her stuff here, but from memory it was because the way she set it up, she had different numbers of different prey. Like she'd have shrimp and yabbies within the tank, and smaller like flat-headed gudgeons, native fish. As soon as she increased the numbers of small carp, the cod was more likely to take on something in the single numbers of something like a shrimp or a yabby.
Then take on a carp.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty fascinating, actually.
Small, easy prey.
Yeah, really fascinating.
Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna have to get her back on to talk about that.
Well, I'm sure that's another one.
It is.
We'll have her on the outflow, and
yeah.
we might team up the great mind of Andy Smith with her, perhaps, because he knows a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably a fair bit more than me. I'm just a dumb angler. So yeah, that could be a good one for the future. Yeah. So, River Escapes. Where can people find you, mate?
The web, social media. When I haven't had too sleepless of a week, and I managed to post something up, but yeah, Instagram and Facebook and
the most reliable. What's the email address?
info@riverescapes.com.au.
Beautiful. Strong recommend for me. I've fished with Cam a couple of times in the drift boat and walking banks, and now down on Mull, and a strong recommendation from me about how you guys go about your business. Your knowledge of the waters that you fish is second to none, and there's some magnificent waters too. You're predominantly up in the northeast in the relatively the foothills and higher reaches for Murray cod, but down to Mull and any other and Eildon as well.
Yeah, Eildon will definitely. We like to fish up this way, I guess, in the warmer weather, and even the winter. Like, I think we're getting better at seeing big fish through winter. Like, we're definitely starting to, like, not the only ones. Geez, there's some switched on people around here as well. Whereas Mulwala was probably traditionally that warmer weather fishery. Now where it's definitely holds its own now in the cooler months.
100%. Yeah. It's a cold, soulless place.
Yeah.
In the darks of winter, but the rewards are there.
100%. Yeah.
And I can, in my own experience, say confidently enough, if you really want to target trophy Murray cod, the winter months are the time to do it. It just thins out all those small fish. They're just not in play, are they?
No, and that's how we've sort of built it to people. It's basically our overall catch rate drops through winter, but our average size goes through the roof.
Yeah.
We I guess, I don't know, every year is different, but like we might genuinely encounter one real big fish every 10 to 20 trips through the warmer months, but winter you're going to see them every second to third or fourth trip.
Yeah. And in winter, that to me it's only spawning age fish that are active. And so that probably starts at 70 as your smaller end and just goes north from there.
And that's exactly what it is. It's those, and we know it from previous work, so that basically the smaller fish will get through winter relying purely on their fat reserves. They don't need to feed. But those bigger mature fish are getting ready to, they need to keep feeding intermittently through winter, and it's generally bigger prey items.
Yeah.
So that's why we're throwing crazy big lures and flies at these fish.
Big hint right there. Big lures.
Yeah.
Big lures for big fish, really.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the time of year to do it. And yeah, those big fish just need to be ready to spawn come springtime. Yeah.
Whereas I guess your encounters with them in the warmer months could be, one cast could be a 120. The same cast in the same spot might have been a 40.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of how Murray cod are in summer.
And
not today though.
Yeah. But different. We're probably fishing different areas too.
Yeah.
We're fishing areas where we expect fish to come and hunt.
Yeah, correct.
And we've talked about this at length as well, and it's amazing as I guess the population gets, like, keen cod anglers are getting pretty much coming up with the same have come to the same conclusion. And it's I think definitely the last couple of years has really shone how we're definitely working these fish out, basically.
Yeah, we are. Piece by piece, but I think cod will always be that fish that you think you've got them worked out.
I don't think you ever will.
No. You think you have them. Yeah.
They're all different.
That's about it. There's an idea for a t-shirt. We won't mention the name. But cod are great, but they're also some things. Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We need some sleep. I think we've got about 4 hours between us and getting up to have another crack. We've got roughly 24 hours left before Nate gets on a plane back to Hawaii. He's keen to get back to get his teeth stuck into a Hawaiian pizza.
No, I'm definitely not keen to get my teeth stuck into a Hawaiian pizza.
What's a Hawaiian pizza, Nate?
Not what you guys, not with ham and pie. That's gross. No.
See, there's a myth busted. Because I thought a Hawaiian pineapple, pizza was Hawaiian. No.
No, it's just terrible.
All right.
No.
Let's sign off, guys. Thanks for the chat. Mad chat. Let's go get a big fish tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Cheers.
Shoots!
Thank you for listening to The Outflow by Ebb Tide Tackle. Subscribe to the podcast to listen to other episodes and stay up to date with new releases. And don't forget to rate and review.